Right after World War I, the British planned to organize the area that they took over from Turkey as one large area, the Kingdom of Syria. There were no specific plans of how to subdivide the area. In 1919, the Palestinians convened a Congress in Jerusalem, which declared that Palestine has always been a part of Greater Syria. They did not request to have an independent Palestinian state. The British appointed Emir Faisal from the Arab Peninsula to be the king of the Kingdom of Syria. The Palestinians accepted this arrangement. Who is the guy next to King Faisal? This is Chaim Weizmann. Weizmann and King Faisal discuss the future of the Jews in the Kingdom of Syria. Faisal recognized that collaboration with the Jews would benefit the Arabs. The Jews will help the Arabs to modernize their society and their economy. Faisal and Weizmann reached an agreement that the Jews will have a national homeland in Greater Syria, in line with Balfour's declaration. The boundaries of the Jewish state will be decided at a later date. The Jews and the Arabs will live as peaceful, collaborating neighboring peoples. Palestinians leaders that still kept their Ottoman positions supported this agreement. The Zionist movement from early on was aware of the Arabs in Palestine and tried to establish harmonious relationship between the two peoples. This was also emphasized in Herzl's book The Jewish State. Zionism did its best to collaborate with the Arabs. At first, it appeared to be working well, but that didn't last long. Due to French demands, the area conquered from Turkey was divided between Britain and France, and the Kingdom of Syria was abolished. In 1922, the British Mandate of Palestine was established by the League of Nations. This is the first time that the boundaries of Palestine were set in an international agreement. Balfour's declaration is part of this agreement. The British appointed Haj Amin al-Husseini to be the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, practically to be the leader of the Arabs of Palestine. From day one, Husseini had a very clear agenda. Eradicate Zionism, chase out the British. Amin al-Husseini did not wait too long to implement his agenda. For 19 years, waves of terror campaigns against the Jewish population swept the country. The Jews gave them the name Hameoraot, the events. Roads to Jewish communities passed through larger Arab communities. The Arabs disrupted Jewish free passage by roadblocks and by throwing rocks on Jewish vehicles. The Jews defended themselves by covering the windows of the vehicles with metal screens. In addition to the physical threat, throwing rocks at someone is also a form of humiliation in this part of the world. That is how stray dogs are chased away. But that was the smallest problem. Mobs from Arab villages raided Jewish settlements. If they overcame the defenses, beating, maiming, torturing, raping, and killing followed. Property was looted, building was demolished and set on fire, crops were burned, trees were uprooted. The picture is of Artuv at the Judean foothills. Please note how much empty area there is around the burning settlement. There were many attacks like that. They all had similar dynamics. In a Muslim holiday or during Friday prayers, fiery sermons were given calling to attack the Yahud, the Jews. This followed by inflammatory speeches to the crowd in the street with shouts like Etbah el-Yahud, slaughter the Jews. In some communities, the Jews fled. In some, defenses were set. In others, people just hid in their homes. The pictures at the bottom are of the aftermath of the riots in Hebron in 1929. At the left you see the blood on the stairs where a Jewish family used to live. At the center is a new Jewish orphan found by the late arriving authorities. At the right is a funeral procession of the victims. These are newspaper reports of the 1929 events. At the right, you can see the list of the victims arranged by locality. The Jewish leadership was in shock. Zionism was supposed to be the answer to pogroms, and here you have it. They couldn't bring themselves to call it in its real name, so they used euphemisms, meoraot, the events. At least in retrospect, it should be called by its real name, pogroms. It became clear. Terror is the tool that the Arabs will use in their drive to get their goal, uprooting Zionism. It started then. Unfortunately, it continues till now. These were the first blows in the Arab-Israeli conflict. They were not preceded by anything similar in scale and brutality that the Jews might have inflicted on the Arabs. It affected the attitudes that the two peoples will have towards each other for years to come. I am a physicist by training, and I try to find laws that explain why things happen. Newton's action-reaction law in physics explains physical interaction between objects. With a little twist, it can explain also aggressive interactions between humans. It goes like that. Every violent action invites a violent reaction. Based on this observation, an unprovoked violent act can start unending cycles of violence. Each side is only reacting to the violence of the other. Each side feels in the right. If it were not for the first blow, there would not be a fight. So the thrower of the first blow should be considered to be the aggressor. In our case, that was not Zionism. Let's see what came after the first blow. The first Jewish reaction to the pogroms of 1920 was to improve the defenses of the communities. This is how the Haganah started, Haganah meaning defense. The strategy was to stay within the fence, repel attacks when they happened, and that's it. In 1929, this strategy turned out to be totally ineffective. After the pogroms of 1929, some in the Jewish community demanded a different strategy. Military actions should not be limited to defending communities. They should include also offensive operations, preventive and retaliatory. The Irgun split from the Haganah and conducted its own operations. Eventually, the Haganah too adopted the strategy of activities inside and outside the fence. The Haganah went all the way and reorganized itself as a regular army with all the standard branches: land, sea, air, commando units, intelligence services, medical and other support units, and so on. In 1948, when the establishment of the State of Israel was declared, all the military forces were united to form the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF. In World War II, Husseini collaborated with Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy. He did it in Iraq and in the Balkans, where he organized Bosnians to serve in the SS. He supported Hitler's final solution because it matched his view on how to fight Zionism. Unfortunately for him, Rommel was defeated in North Africa. After the end of the war, he was a wanted war criminal. He found refuge in Arab countries. Husseini and the Palestinian leadership were staunch opponents to Jewish immigration to Palestine then and to Israel now. The Arabs needed a figurehead to represent their struggle. With his record, it couldn't be Amin al-Husseini. They chose Izzadin al-Qassam, who, like Husseini, fought the British and conducted terror attacks on the Jews. The military arm of Hamas is called Izzadin al-Qassam Brigade, and the rockets that they use against Jewish civilian populations are called Qassam, to honor his legacy.